Okay, so we open Revit, and this is what appears. Now everybody should be in the same page by now. What I'm asking you, and we're going to start that way next week, is when you say new, you will have several options to choose from as what type of files you have, what type of project you want to start with. We're going to select default, although normally in most of the Revit softwares, you will start with the architectural template, okay? That's what I would use, for example, at home. I'm going to use default, and you say OK. And it will open a default project. So once you're in a project, it starts always from the levels, no? There's several windows here. You have a property window, you have a project browser, and you have here on the top a bunch of tabs that allow you to either insert different components or allow you to visualize different things in different ways or manage your project. You can create your terrains or whatever, etc. Okay? So, if you don't see these panels, you can go to View, User Interface, and you have Project Browser and Properties. That should be checked. And I recommend that you work with them all the time on. You can dock them actually in another screen if you want, whatever you prefer. Another good thing from the same place, View, User Interface, is that you can go to Keyboard Shortcuts here, and you can rename the shortcuts for your working process. Let's say you want to do a wall. You can go to Wall, and you see how Wall says shortcut WA? That's the two letters that you will type. And you can select any of the functions within Revit and rename its shortcuts, okay? Which, as in AutoCAD, and you guys are experts in AutoCAD, I'm sure, you're typing your commands all the time. You're not anymore going to the button, no? So it's good to know this. Again, it's in View, User Interface, Keyboard Shortcuts.
Different for everything, so we can rename it ourselves.
You can rename yourselves as you want.
Yes, if I do it myself, the other person would be out speaking because they rename it as they want it.
Yeah, so here in the university you will probably have trouble because you're going to have to change it every time you open Revit. So it's good to know the ones that are standardized already, which is WA, DI for dimension, etc. Okay, as you open, the first thing you have to notice in the Project Browser, it's highlighted in black here in bold letters, level 1. So that means that we are in level 1. Even though we don't see anything, actually we see these guys, we'll talk about that. We are in level 1 of a 3D model. So Revit, again, is you create a 3D model with all the parameters associated to each of the elements of the model that you can change anytime, and then you extract 2D drawings from the 3D model, meaning sections, plans, elevations, etc. Very convenient. You work in 3D, you extract 2D, no? So in order to go from one view to another, you double-click on the view you want to see. Let's say I want to go to level 2. Double-click, highlights, makes itself in bold letters. You know you're in level 2. The same for the side, level 1 ceiling plans, elevations. Every time you go and double-click into a view, you will be in that specific view. Now again, be careful, because if you go here under View and this little option, Tile Windows, and again, you have in parentheses the shortcut for most of the things, WT. So if I say WT, it's going to give me the Tile Windows. Every time you double-click on a view, it's opened. So be careful with that. You can close, if you're in a window like this one, and you can close all of the windows opened except the one you're in by clicking here on Close Hidden Windows. Okay, so you have to be there, close, and if I go Tile, it means that there's no other windows open at the moment, no? Good. You have architecture. Most of the things that we're going to see today, at least, are here. You can do walls by clicking on the button or typing WA. You can do doors, windows, or components. Some of them are components that need other components. They're hosted. A door needs a wall. A door needs a wall. A window needs a wall, etc., etc. Okay, so you can create levels. You can create grids. And we'll talk about everything as we go throughout the semester. Here in the project browser, you also have legends. We'll talk about legends. We'll talk about schedules later on. And you have sheets. In order to create a sheet, you just right-click on it and say New Sheet. By default, you will have a 3042 horizontal sheet. I recommend that because we're going to work the entire semester with a specific size, which is 2234, that you load a title block. You press load and you say title block. You load the 2234 for this specific assignment. You say OK. The moment you create one sheet, you can span this option and you will have the sheet there, which you can right-click and rename as you wish. No? Remember that if you rename this number A101 and the unnamed, it will be associated with the title block's title. It says unnamed and number. Okay, so that's important that you learn how to rename this because you're changing actually the title block. In order to create the sheet, we'll probably do it again later on with something created, but you will just drag the views directly. Since we don't have anything in level 1 or elevations, if I drag it, it will only appear the elevation symbols or something else. Okay, so good. Let's go to level 1. When I create something, let's say a wall, two things change. One is the property panel, and another one is the entire top slab here. That means that we're in the creation mode, meaning that I can create a wall in different ways, but you will be able to create a door in different ways, you will be able to create a roof in different ways, and these are the ways that you can make it. You can create a line and do a wall by clicking 2 times on the left button and escape, otherwise you continues. You can create a rectangle wall, and if you escape 2 times, you get out of that command. You have to get in again, the same options will appear. If you escape once, you just don't repeat the same pentagon, for example, in this case. Okay? All these tools are similar to AutoCAD in the sense that you can rotate something by selecting rotate, and you can move it, you can copy, etc. while you're in that command. Okay? Another thing, I'm just going to escape 2 times and do another wall. Another thing that changes is the properties panel. This, you have to always be checking the properties panel. You're creating a wall that has properties and many parameters associated. So before you do a wall, I recommend that you make sure that all the elements within your properties panel are the ones you want them to be. First, for example, what type of wall? Are all the walls the same? No. As I said before, some of them are partition and they match for interior partition. Some of them are curtain walls, other ones are exterior walls of different types and layers. Choose the one you want first. Second, make sure that you're creating the wall from where you want it to be to where you want it to be, meaning from what level to what level. How do we know the levels? On escape, you should go to elevations, double click there, and you will see that you have by default 2 levels. Now we see some of the walls I created before, level 1 and level 2. I can create as many levels as I want by clicking on level under architecture and adding levels. But I'm going to talk more about levels right after, so I'll leave it there. The second you create a level, it appears under the views, meaning I can double click on that one, and any wall that is section, doors, etc., through that level, it will appear there as if it was a plan, no? Okay. Other things such as, again, from where to where it goes, the offsets from the base, offsets from the top. You have many different parameters that you can change, okay? We will talk about it later, but you can edit the type. A type is, we'll get in detail, is regards to the type of walls. So for example, all these basic walls exteriors are grouped under one type. So you could change this type of wall by clicking on edit type. You enter a window that has many other parameters that regard to this type, not to the specific wall that you have drawn, okay? We'll get to that as we go. I'm going to escape that. Okay, other things such as massing. You can create terrains. You have options to create volumes. This area is more like the Rhino section in a way, like you can model things quite easily, not as easily as in Rhino, but you can model quite easily different volumetric projects, and then assign to faces different ingredients of Revit. Okay, we'll see that probably at the end. You can insert different type of components by clicking here and searching for what components you want, like trees or any other side component. I'm going to escape that a couple times, and many other things regarding the massing and the side. Again, under view, you're going to be able to create sections. By clicking section, you type 2 times. You create a section that is automatically inserted into your project browser here under sections. Nothing comes renamed, so you almost always, if not always, you're going to have to right-click and rename it, because whatever name you have here, it will appear in your sheet as section number 1, and you will normally want to name it properly according to construction sheet management, okay? You can create as many sections you want, and they will all appear over here. You can also create callouts. If you draw a callout, you're drawing a detailed part of a view, and they will appear automatically under your plans, floor plans, callout. If I double click there, that's the callout. Normally it will duplicate the scale, and I'm going to talk about this panel. Here in the bottom is a very important little toolbar that regards to how we visualize things in the view. Here we can change the scale. By changing the scale, pretty much everything changes, so it's very convenient. You can trust a little bit how big the symbols are going to be later on in your sheet. That's quite good, no? You can change whether you see this under coarse view, medium, or fine. That regards to the detail level of the view. So if you say fine, and I don't know if I created, let me do another wall that has many layers like that one. Escape. This has many layers, and you can see them under fine and medium. But if I press coarse, it gets clean in a way. Still is the same wall, you just visualize it clean. You could use that, for example, for a less detailed plan, and then for a more detailed plan, you could change the level of detail. No? This regards to the 3D, and now how we get to a 3D, we have a button up here that says default 3D. That allows us to jump to the 3D view. In the 3D view, we can press Shift and the center button, the scroll button, to navigate around. You can scroll in and scroll out, and you can just pan by pressing the center button. You can also use this guy. I particularly don't like it. You have some paths that you can turn on and off, but with sun settings, I'm going to talk about that later. You can create the shadows, place them, or turn them off anytime you want. Render, I'm not going to talk about that now. And you can use crop views that allows you to crop the view and see the cropping or not by clicking the second one, and making crop or not making it crop for the first option. This you can lock the view, and this is visually to hide or unhide, isolate elements or categories, and I'll talk about that in just a second. This allows you to rebuild. This is a secondary level of visualization of layers and element, not layers, sorry, there are no layers in Revit. Allows you to visualize the elements in different ways. No? So let me